G'day and welcome to Pellowe Talk. I'm very interested to find out whether or not this logo is reversed image or looking normal when I upload this clip. Look, I went to the office of Joanne Miller, the Labor MP for the state government of Queensland in the electorate of Bundamba this morning, and she agreed to meet me even though I wasn't a constituent in her electorate, and I really appreciate the time she did to do that. I had one very simple reason for going, and that was to say thank you. Thank you to her for voting better on a horrible piece of legislation than 3 LNP members did. And here we have a really great example of a situation where some of the most important legislation we as citizens and residents of any jurisdiction may ever get to consider. We need representatives, regardless of what party they're from, who will vote for the issues of life, liberty and family in a way that reflects the Christian foundations of our common law and our culture. And that's very important because we should be undecided voters. We shouldn't give any party loyalty. Every candidate and every party should always be working to represent us, their constituents. Now, of course, there's people with different views, and so it's important for each of us to make our views known so that they can get an accurate reflection of what the electorate on the whole is actually thinking. Because quite often a lot of these fringe agendas are very vocal, very noisy, very assertive and quite bullying and intimidating, placing a lot of pressure on candidates to do things that do not reflect the silent majority. And so we, the silent majority, Christians make up more than 51% of Australia as a whole. We need to be saying what it is that we think is the most important, because very, very oppressive pieces of legislation, such as the bad trad abortion bill, will get through and provide absolutely no protection for women or children or families. It's a horrible piece of legislation that doesn't require independent counselling to assure there's no coercion going on. The people providing the counselling are the people who profit from the procedure going ahead, which is a terrible conflict of interest. And there's no mandatory cooling off periods before you kill your unborn baby, just like there is in many of the European jurisdictions which have liberalised abortion laws. Now, of course, we don't want to see any woman criminalised because of the decision she's made, and the fact is that in 119 years, no woman ever was criminalised, despite abortion being put in the criminal code for that long. And that's where it should be. When you kill a living human who has inherently fundamental rights such as life, you're taking away every right that they have. They have no right to choice, they have no right to representation, they have no right to freedom of speech. None of the rights that we fight for in our society can exist without the right to life. And so this is a grossly unjust piece of legislation, and it was remarkable that 3 people from my side of politics crossed the floor to support the violation of these fundamental human rights. And it was applaudable that somebody from the left actually crossed the floor against her own party to vote against this horrible piece of legislation. And I went along to her office this morning just to say thank you. I bought a box of chocolates to give to the staff in the office, again for the hard work that they do and the sometimes terrible feedback that they must get. And so it was really important that we do that we thinking people, Christians, remain undecided voters at every election. Even if you're a member of a party, you should be an undecided voter, because what you have to do is be able to take your voice to an election and insist that the candidates from whatever party they are attempt to represent you. And so very simply, you write an email to each candidate and you say, hey, I'm an undecided voter in your electorate and I'm looking for somebody to represent me. The person who represents me best will be able to get not only my vote, but I'll also volunteer for you on election day. I'll put your sign up in my yard and I'll donate to your campaign as much as I can, because I'm looking for somebody to represent me and my vote must not be taken for granted. So that's what I did this morning to Joanne Miller from Labor, in the seat of Bundamba, and I recommend to anybody in the seat of Bundamba to give her a very serious consideration. Now, she's been there for eight terms of government, and she's doing very, very well. She's very, very focused on the local electorate. Having had a chat with her this morning, it was great getting to know her, and she's well and truly one of the locals there, and it's good to see people doing that hard work. And whatever else I disagree with, and there's plenty that I disagree with people who are in the Labor Party, but when we're killing 100,000 people a year in Australia in the sanctity of a medical clinic, where doctors should be professional healers and helpers, not killers, it's a tragedy beyond the pale that transcends any and every other issue combined. Nothing else matters in Australian elections until we end and abolish this horrific holocaust of killing the unborn in our clinics here in Australia. It's a terrible injustice that must be ended. Every human life, every living human is precious and worth defending at every stage. And there is no other mitigating circumstance or context which diminishes the value of that human life other than the immediate threat to the present threat to the mother's life. Not a risk, an immediate threat that intervenes. And then you don't do a procedure that's intended to kill, whose sole intention is to kill the unborn child. Then you do a procedure whose intention it is to save the mother's life. If the unintended consequence is that the child loses its life, then that's tragic, but it's an unintended consequence. At best, you could call that an indirect abortion. But what we should be calling it is delivering the child, and then taking every step within our means to try and save that child, because we had to deliver it early to save the mother's life, and the child's life is also important. That's the best that we can do. There are no exceptions to the value of someone else's life, and people offering exceptions is a false compassion. More violence does not solve violence. Killing someone else does not spare them suffering. It is the ultimate suffering, ending that life. And it's only in the fat, lazy, apathetic, indulgent, selfish West that we think euthanasia and abortion, suicide are valid options to anything. You don't see people in Ethiopia and war-torn countries killing themselves as fast and as rapidly as we are in the West. It's not a solution. We don't know the definition of suffering. It's incredible that our society has thought that killing and death is any kind of solution to any kind of problem. But again, look, this video is about saying well done to Joanne Miller of the Labor Party in the seat of Bundamba in Queensland. Well done. And to all of the viewers watching this, let's commit to being undecided voters and giving the best candidate in every electorate, in every election, our support, so that no party takes us for granted, and every party is always working, and every candidate is always working to ensure their best quality of representation for our values, for Christian values, the values that made Australia great and will make her great once again. This is David Pellowe for Pellowe Talk, and if you'd like to subscribe to more updates or find out how you can support, please jump on my website, davepellowe.com, and I look forward to talking to you later. Bye.